Let us practice the absolute relative change of percentages. So we have a table. We are given this adult who smoke over 10-year periods, and they are given to us in percentages. So let's look at 1990, which would be our new value, and then 1980 would be the reference, right? That's the old. Absolute change is found by taking new minus old, final minus initial. I don't care what words you use here. 25.5 minus 33.2, we end up with an absolute change of negative 7.7. From 1980 to 1990, the percentage of adults who smoke decreased 7.7 percentage points. To find the relative change, I take that absolute change and I divide by the old. So we would take negative 7.7 divided by 33.2, which gives me a negative 0.23. Or a negative 23%, because relative change can also be written as a percent. Go ahead and finish the rest of the table. So we see from 1990 to 2000, our absolute change was a negative 2.7 and our relative change was negative 11%. And from 2000 to 2010, we had an absolute change of negative 3.5 percentage points and a relative change of negative 15%. Now let's use that to answer some questions. Use the relative change over 10 years calculated for 2010 in a meaningful sentence. Okay, so 2010, we're talking about relative change, so that's negative 15%. From 2000 to 2010, the percent of adults who smoke decreased 15%. We maybe should even say adults in the U.S. Maybe I should throw that in there. But the big key here, we have a negative sign in front of this. Negative implies decreased. So I don't need to put that negative in the sentence because decreased tells me it's negative. What is the relative change of adult smokers between 1980 and 2010? The way this is worded, it tells us 2010 is new and 1980 is old. In our table, we broke this down into 10-year chunks. In this question, we are asking to just do it in one piece. Looking at this, we would take relative change, new minus old, divided by old. 19.3 minus 33.2 divided by 33.2. I end up with negative 13.9 divided by 33.2 gives me a negative 0.418, which is approximately 0.42, a negative 42%. So from 1980 to 2010, we had a 42% decrease in the percentage of adults who smoke in the U.S. That's what that means. Is our answer from the previous question, negative 42%, the same as the sum of the relative change values from the table? So we had negative 23%, negative 11%, negative 15%, which, when we add those together, gives me a negative 49%. So is negative 42 the same as negative 49? And the answer is no, those are not the same. And the reason is the difference in reference values. Think about each 10-year period. When you find new minus old divided by old, for each one of those, we had a different denominator. Only from 80 to 90 was the denominator 33.2. The next year, it was 25.5, and the year after that, it was 22.8. So because the reference value changed each time, that changes the relative change. When we calculated the relative change from 80 to 10, we only had the one denominator. As the reference years change, the reference values change, which lead to, well, more accurate data and just a different, I shouldn't say more accurate, because it always depends on the years that you're using. But that's the difference. We had 3 reference years when we went by 10 years, and we only had 1 reference year when we went from 80 to 10.